everyone's favorite jack of all trades with the foul mouth. Fuck. Commodore Urban. That's better. And today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. 108 years ago on this date, at 11:40 p.m., the Royal Mail steamer Titanic would strike the iceberg, and roughly several hours later, 2:20 a.m. on the 15th, would slip beneath the waves of the North Atlantic, and leaving behind her roughly 1,496 people dead, and a little over 700 people survived. I figured, as kind of my tribute to the Titanic for this anniversary, I would do a little bit of a general overview, kind of like a general overview history on the Titanic. And before I begin, I have two of my models behind me. My 1/350 scale by Minicraft. It was a out-of-the-box build. And of course my 1/400 scale Academy model, which it's not finished. It's not even glued. I just got it all sitting together, kind of pretty to be next to the bigger one. I can tell you right now, if you get a model of the Titanic, don't go no smaller at 1/400 scale, because then it gets really hard and fuck to work on them. But the detailing kit, or the photo etch in the wood that comes with that, fucking awesome shit. Anyway, it was 1907. The Lusitania and Mauritania were making news lines, stories all over the world, and so two men. There was a dinner party. Lord William Peary held a dinner party for his friend and business partner J. Bruce Ismay, owner of the White Star Line. And after dinner, while their wives went and chatted in the writing room, the men went into another room and had cigars and were talking. Of course, it went to business. And the Cunard Line was taking a thunder away from White Star. But that's not the main reason why White Star and Harland and Wolff were building these massive fucking ships. No. It's because the rumblings over in Germany. The Germans were planning on building bigger ships than the British had ever built. And this really worried Peary and Ismay. So they devised a plan on trumping not just the Cunarders, but trumping anything that the fucking Germans were putting out in the form of two big liners, with the third coming much later. And so they devised up the plans. Originally, the plans were supposed to have been of a larger version of the Big Four class of liner, being the Celtic, the Cedric, the Baltic, and the Adriatic. But, 4 masts and 3 funnels. But the design was reworked into what you see behind me: 4 funnels and 2 masts. One being supposedly a dummy funnel. It's not a dummy funnel. It did exhaust gases and stuff from the ship. It just wasn't boiler gases. So it technically was a funnel. So it was an air shaft too for the reciprocating and the turbine engine rooms. Anyway, over the next several months, plans were finalized and stuff, and then Olympic's keel was laid, I believe, in October of 1908, followed by Titanic's keel in March of 1909. The two ships rose in Belfast. First one launch was Olympic in October of 1910, and then May of 1911 was the Titanic. And of course the Olympic was finished. Then, the Olympic had several voyages until, September of 1911. She had her little accident with HMS Hawk, had to go back to Belfast. And that was the first delay in the Titanic's construction, because Titanic's original maiden voyage date was March 20th, 1912. But because of that accident, they pushed Titanic's maiden voyage date to April 10th. And a lot of people were like, well, the Titanic could have sailed earlier. She never would have met with the ice. You never know. So, and of course, during this time, the Titanic's progression was slowed until they fixed the Olympics, and they rushed to get Titanic finished. By late by late March of 1912, the Titanic was ready for her sea trials. And of course, she only had one day of sea trials versus the Olympics' much more extensive sea trials. But the ship passed with flying colors, and the ship prepared to sail for her home port of Southampton, not Liverpool. She never visited Liverpool, unlike her sister, which did the previous year. And of course, throughout the entire week when the Titanic was in Southampton, she was being prepared, and nobody was allowed on board because they were finishing the details and the touches to the greatest ship in the White Star Fleet. And of course, 108 years ago on the 10th, the 10th of April, but the 10th of April 1912, the Titanic left Southampton at noon, and she had a near collision with the SS New York while leaving the port. It was the quick thinking of several tugs that actually moved the New York out of the way before the Titanic got hit by the New York. And she was late by several hours to get to Cherbourg later that night. And the next day on the 11th, she stopped one last time in Queenstown, Ireland before, picking up third class and mail and dropping off mail and passengers before she hit the open ocean. And then once the Titanic left the Irish coast and left continental Europe behind, she just steamed ahead for several days until the 14th of April at 11:40 p.m. The Titanic's men in the crow's nest, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, spot the iceberg, and they call the bridge, and three bells, and called and said iceberg right ahead. They try to turn the Titanic. Of course, the Titanic hits the iceberg, opening up the first 5 compartments. And a lot of people don't realize that the bulkhead between boiler rooms number 6 and 5 was damaged by a coal fire. That was a critical bulkhead for the ship to survive, which of course it was weakened by the fire. But a lot of people don't realize that. Anywho, several hours later, the Titanic sinks into the bottom of the North Atlantic, taking with her everything that was on board, including over 1,496 passengers and crew, to their deaths, while over 700 people were shivering to death in cold in lifeboats. And, yeah, I know that's a pretty blunt explanation. Sorry. I know it's a pretty blunt explanation about the Titanic's history, but for anyone that doesn't really know about the Titanic's history or has heard about it and wants to learn a little bit more, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And of course, later that morning on the 15th, right around 4:30, 5 o'clock, the rescue ship, the SS Carpathia, the Cunard Line, which had picked up the distress signals from the Titanic, actually reached the area of the sinking and actually rescued everyone by 8 o'clock. And then they took a direct course to New York, and on the 18th of April, the Carpathia was back in New York with all the survivors. And before the Carpathia tied up at the Cunard Line Pier, they actually stopped at Pier 59, which was a White Star Pier, and they lowered all the Titanic's lifeboats and took them to the pier. That was the final remains of the greatest ship ever built. And of course, you guys probably know about both the American and the British inquiries. They were both said to be whitewashes. I think the American inquiry was a little bit more probing in this stuff, unlike the British inquiry, because the British Board of Trade was doing an inquiry into its own self because the rules were outdated on these ships, but actually the rule had been looked into in 1911 for more lifeboat accommodations on ships because of the Olympic, but there was three things that they looked at that actually made them not change it. One was the fact that these ships had, watertight subdivision in their hulls. That was one. Two, ships were on known routes. So you know where a ship was at in the ocean. That's two. And three, most of these ships had wireless. So if anything did happen, they'd call for help and ships could come and rescue people off the ship. And that's the three things why the British Board of Trade did not mandate more lifeboats on ships the size of the Olympic class. So there you have it, guys. That is my explanation of the kind of the general history of the Titanic from built to sunk. But everyone knows about the discovery. I'm not really going to get into that. But anywho, I hope you guys fucking enjoyed this shit. I hope you guys enjoyed something. I hope you guys learned something from it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below and I will get back with you. I will. Why you guys don't comment on my videos? You guys should comment more. I will get back with you. And as always, if you're new to the channel, you like what I'm doing, you don't want to miss a video, hit the subscribe button and beat the shit out of that bell. Become a member of the Commodore's crew and never miss a video. So until next time, this is Commodore Urban. Sand smooth seas and clear skies. Happy sailing with you, and God bless. And take care. And God bless the Titanic. Good day.